Hi, I'm Justin and welcome to part 4 of the Star Wars custom Hoth diorama featuring Wampa and Luke on one side in a Wampa cave, and then Han Solo, Princess Leia, but the Hoth version now, and a Tauntaun on the other. So, in this video I want to show you what all I've added so far, which is going to be some icicle work. It's going to be Luke with his magnetic feet attached to the icicles, which is really cool when you see him hanging from the roof later. I can't wait to show you that. And then also, I'm going to be using epoxy putty to smooth out transitions between foam board and icicles, because we don't want it to look like it's two pieces of foam board smacked together with some glue. We want it to look natural, like it was created on that foam board all by itself. So of course everyone knows it's not real, but we want it to look as real as possible, especially when we add that paint and maybe some texture to it to make it look more realistic. And then I've also got to do some work on the Rebel base side. I've got to add some ice work on the back and sides and some electrical wiring. And also I need to finish the work on the door, which shouldn't take me very long on the door, but everything else will take a lot more time. So I promise you that the filming of this probably took 4 or 5 days, many hours. So don't get the wrong impression when you see a 10 to 15 minute video or less. It took a lot longer to do all this stuff. So don't get your hopes up that you're going to do this stuff very quickly when you do make your own diorama if you've never made one before. Alright, so tools of the trade. You're going to need your hot glue gun for anything and everything related to diorama work. Or whatever glue you like to use. Then you got your blade, of course, box cutter blade. And then we've got our Sharpie marker for marking where we're going to be placing things. Really useful, especially when you're trying to watch out for walls and not messing something up, basically. Your Dremel for all your detail work, always nice to have. And then, of course, this is probably one of the more important things for this part, which is the Tamiya epoxy putty. And I'll show you how I use this. You'll also want, and I'll show you that as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, go and get a cup of water if you're planning on using this after you watch this. And you're going to need that water for your fingers so it doesn't stick. Alright, so let's go and get started on this because we've got a lot of work to do. Alright, so here we go. Gluing's the first step for me. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and add my extra glue sticks. I know I'm going to need it. And I've already glued a couple things. And one thing I've noticed is when you're gluing and you notice that you need to go in and either fill in a little gap or go back to something later, you can always mark it. I put a little green mark, I don't know if you can see it, right here, that I need to go in and fill this in with some putty, epoxy putty. So I'm going to do that a little bit later, but now let's get started with the gluing. The Wampa's going to have to move for this one. You just want to make sure you have a clear path to everything you're reaching for. Don't end up gluing an icicle to the Wampa's forehead. I'm almost done. I've got a couple more icicles to put down, and then I'm going to mark anything that needs to be filled in. Because the idea I'm starting to have is that I'm going to use the epoxy putty to make sure I smooth out the ground up to the icicle, and then it looks like a natural progression from the ground level up until where the line would be where you glued down the icicle. So let's take a closer look. You can see you got icicles all in the front, and then we're going to add icicles coming down from above to make it feel like it's enclosed and that Luke is, stuck somewhere. When you see it, I want you to feel some of what it would be like to be in a cave just by looking at it. And that's the idea. So hopefully it looks like that when I'm done. For me, this is really exciting because I think once I add these icicles, it's going to bring this whole diorama to life and make it feel like an actual cave. So I'm excited to see what that looks like when it's on. I'm going to add our glue. Mess. Alright, get that on there good. You can always slide it around a little bit once you apply it onto the piece. I think we're in good shape. So this is one of those really important moments, is placing Luke hanging down from the icicles. It's one of my favorite little pieces that I did make. His feet have magnets on them, if you haven't seen before. There they go. And he detaches from it, and then you can reattach him back on again and again. He hangs down with the force of magnets. So here we go. We're going to at least draw out some marks to get some idea of where we're going to place him here. Let's go with that. Whoops. All right, so we're putting Luke down. It's like the moment of truth, right? So let's add our glue. My hero. Oh, of course, I run out of glue, and this is enough to put him on, so we're good. All right, line it up. All right, so Luke is drying. We're just waiting on him. Well, he's not drying. The glue's drying. So we're going to see what he looks like when we turn this thing upside down, and hopefully it looks as cool as I imagined it. So let's take a look. Oh, man, that looks awesome. I don't know if you can see that to get a close-up look here. Okay, so I can't be happier with the results of Luke, the Wampa, the lightsaber being in there. You can see it in the back now. And we've got all our icicles in. Everything's glued in on this side. I'm not going to be adding much more, if anything, on this side. I'm just going to be adding some details like with epoxy putty and smoothing out transitions between the foam base and then the foam icicles that we have here. And that should be pretty much it. I don't think there's going to be much more I'm going to add in terms of structure or making it look a whole lot different on this side. All the other details are really going to make this look really special in the end. And then, of course, I'd like to be able to get to my Rebel base side because it's very simple, very plain. I want to add some cables. I've drawn out a couple ideas of what I want it to look like, and I also need to add some details onto my Rebel door. Upon looking at some pictures of screenshots, I thought the door looked a little too plain. I was like, that can't be right. And lo and behold, there is a little X sort of mark in there, as you can see I've drawn on faintly. And I'm going to do that with some foam and hopefully be able to incorporate that in today. We'll see. So let's get started on this and see how much we can get done. All right, when you're using epoxy putty, they're going to come in little packs like this. At least if you buy the Tamaya putty, it will do this. I don't know if there's other brands out there, but this stuff works really great. And again, make sure you check. This is the quick set type, so it does dry a little bit faster, and I can't remember the exact dry time. Just follow the directions on the package. It does take a while, though, so if you're going to do this, you're probably going to want to work on other things in the diorama after you've created something with this. And this is great for customizing figures, making your own sculpts, all kinds of neat stuff. So when you first get it, it's going to come in in a bunch of little packages like this with two different colors. You're going to have white in one, and then this mustardy yellow in the other. And you're going to take it out of the package. And at any time you use it, you can always save the leftovers and put it in a plastic bag, which is what I do. And it's great later. It doesn't, go bad fast or anything like that. I don't even know if there is an expiration on this stuff. I imagine everything does have a date where it kind of changes. And you're going to want to have water close by, because anytime you're going to be handling it, you can handle it without the water, but if you want it to not stick to your fingers, I highly recommend using water. It's kind of a necessary thing. You have to have it. So we're going to go ahead and peel off the layers that we have here of plastic. And, of course, you're going to combine these two parts. They react together to create this material that turns into a hardened plastic-like form after, which is paintable, easy to work with. It's kind of fun. It's like working with a permanent Play-Doh. Alright, so again, wet your fingers really good. You can't really have too much of that in there. And just press it together. And this takes a while, so I'm not going to show you all of this. We're going to flash forward here in a second with some movie magic. Take out a chunk that you're going to use. And apply it to the area that you want it. Alright, so we have our putty here that we're going to use, the epoxy putty. Again, keep your fingers wet. So we have our epoxy putty and we have our wet fingers to keep it from sticking. And you're going to take off a piece that you're going to use. And like this, I want a longer piece, so I can always stretch it out after. I've got it here. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to do most of the shaping once it's down. So you apply it wherever you want it, which I want mine here. And I just press it on. Again, my fingers are pretty wet right now. They're not dry at all. You can't really tell that in the video, but I promise you they are not. And you're going to, in my case, I'm pressing into it because I want to smooth it out and I want it to be pressed up against it almost as if it was a part of the piece that I'm putting it on. So I'm doing a lot of smearing where I rub my finger down on it like this, and that smooths it out. I'm going to have to get some more water again because it is drying out pretty quickly when I'm working with it. Not the putty, but my finger does. It will dry just as you leave it. Alright, wrapping up part 4 here. We've done all the structural parts to this except for a few minor details that I'm going to change later. Not going to include it in part 5 at all when we start painting. Just going to cut straight to the painting. You'll see those additions when I show part 5. So basically to wrap it up and to show you all that we have here, we've got some great icicles with some epoxy work down here on the bottom, the top, and behind. Back where Luke is, hanging down from those icicles, as you can see. We've got his cool little lightsaber hanging out in the back, just like in the Empire Strikes Back movie. So I'm really happy with the Wampa Cave. Like, love it. It's one of my favorite parts of this. The Rebel base is growing on me right now. I just finished most of the Rebel base details. And to go back real quick to the Wampa Cave, I am going to add, there's a little circle drawing in green marker that I'm going to add something down here on the base, some shape or something, just to add a little detail, make it look a little bit more visually appealing. On the Rebel base, we've got a whole lot of work done, a lot. I mean, we've got some ice work up here. I've got a little snowy slope here, nothing major. These are small details, but they make a big visual difference. And then we've got some ice work in the back, electrical cords, which were Ethernet cables that I repurposed for that, and some metal wire back there to go down to the door. Really happy with all of that. And I've got a little piece of equipment in the back too that I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep, so just stay tuned to see what I do with that. I may or may not. I'm going to paint it up, see how it looks. That'll help me decide. So all in all, I'm really happy with this. I feel like it's a success so far. Paints is sort of like the next trial in this, and I've never done painting with like trying to make it look like snow, so I'm a little nervous about that, but hopefully we'll get through it just fine. So stay tuned for part 5, where I show you, you know, probably the final touches on this. And I may break it up into 2 parts depending on how much painting there is. It's a lot of work usually because you would layer the paints. But stay tuned for it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully this is going to look amazing when I'm all done. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 5.